failure to stand up to those special interests and big corporations that I have fought during 20 years of Attorney General. They know me, and I think their anger is well justified, and they know that I share their anger, frustration, and their anxiety about the future, because I have children as well, and I'm worried about their future, worried about the future of this nation for them, concerned that we don't have an energy plan in Washington. I proposed an energy plan. It would make polluters pay. It would lower utility costs. It would reward Connecticut for being a relatively clean burning fuel state, clean fuel burning state. I believe strongly that we should create green jobs. We have many fuel cell manufacturers here in the state of Connecticut. We could be the fuel cell capital of the world. But we need to provide incentives and support and loans for those small businesses and medium-sized businesses that make those products. Those messages, I think people are understanding, and of course, I wouldn't be reluctant to talk again to your newspaper. I welcome this opportunity to talk to the people of Connecticut through the means you've provided. Very, very important. But my view is this seat should not be bought. And we are Connecticut. People understand and I think want an election, not an offer.
You've been not shy about pursuing people and businesses and groups and agencies or whatever who you feel have not done the right thing in the state and that affect the state. There's a business in the state that had a very high record of employee deaths, drug abuse, illegal drugs, and yet you took no action against them. That's the world, WWE. Why, and you were critical of them last week, saying all of those things. Why did Richard Blumenthal, the Attorney General, not look at that Connecticut-based company and take a look at what's going on there and determine if there was anything that you could or should do about it?
Well, as you know, there is an ongoing investigation by the Department of Labor into the illegal classification of WWE workers, primarily its wrestlers. Illegal classification that harms, potentially, when it occurs, misclassification harms not only the workers but also taxpayers. And that kind of investigation is typically done by the Department of Labor. That's where complaints go for investigation. There are other allegations that deserve to be considered by the people of Connecticut, such as whether my opponent, through her business, has in effect marketed sex and violence to young people, whether she has turned a blind eye to illegal steroid or drug use, whether even now she refuses to acknowledge that steroid use can have long-term health consequences. You know that my jurisdiction is civil. Many of those allegations are criminal. So they are outside my authority.
So you felt that was outside your authority to do that. My last question, you mentioned your energy policy. Your opponent is calling that a recipe for an energy tax on gasoline and elsewhere that will drive energy charges up. How do you refute that or answer to that?
The claim is absolutely false. I've never supported an energy tax. I've never supported a carbon tax. My energy plan would make polluters out of state, energy producers, pay for their pollution, as I've done as Attorney General in taking legal action against the power plants that produce acid rain and smog blown to Connecticut by prevailing winds, or against CO2 producers. Make the polluters pay, reward Connecticut for being a clean burning fuel state, and create green jobs, but also cut utility costs. And I've attacked the federal government, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, going all the way to the United States Supreme Court, because its policies raise our electricity prices. We ought to be angry and outraged that Connecticut has some of the highest electricity costs in the United States. I think second highest on the continental United States, in large part because of federal policies that set certain levels for pricing, directly contrary to our interests. And I would fight those policies as a United States Senator, stand up to this administration or any other administration if it refuses to change those policies. The numbers in my opponent's ads, in those attack ads, are phony. They are phony numbers concocted by right-wing think tank designed to scare people and protect the special energy interests that I have fought. And my energy plan would be good for Connecticut, but in no way would it involve a national energy tax.
One final question for you. You still believe that lawsuits create jobs?
You know, sometimes, Ray, small businesses are trampled just like ordinary people. And I stood up to General Motors when it wanted to close one of the dealerships here in Connecticut, Alderman Motors, and we won. I stood up to Pratt & Whitney when it wanted to end jobs and ship them elsewhere for hundreds of Pratt & Whitney workers. I stood up to the federal government when it wanted to change the Made in America label to dilute it. And I have taken on many other corporations when they sometimes mistreated small businesses. I believe fighting for small businesses is part of what I've done, but I can tell you it certainly will be part of what I do as a United States Senator. Fighting for small businesses, putting people in Connecticut first, always putting Connecticut first, and putting people ahead of profits.
Thank you for joining us today. We will be continuing our conversation with our candidates. In fact, in about 15 minutes, we'll have Tom Marsh, the independent candidate for governor, joining us here for an editorial board interview. Once again, these interviews will be up on our webpage within a matter of a day, complete, unedited, and we invite you to come back and watch the candidates and compare so that you can be an informed voter in November. We'll see you back in about 15 minutes.